Right now, we are living through a modern-day gold rush. But the gold, it's artificial intelligence. Tech giants are pouring billions into it. Startups are popping up seemingly overnight, and everyone, and I mean everyone, is talking about how it's going to change the world. But here's the thing about gold rushes. They have a habit of ending. So are we actually building the future, or are we just inflating the biggest tech bubble in history?
So that's the big question, isn't it? Is this the dawn of a revolutionary new era, or are we just walking the same path that led to the dot-com crash? To figure that out, we kind of have to look at the playbook from the last time a new technology promised to change absolutely everything, and then, well, it crashed and burned.
Just listen to this for a second. Losing money on purpose. That's a direct quote from the CEO of a huge dot-com company, said right before the entire bubble burst. It sounds completely nuts, right? But is it really that different from some of the logic we're hearing about AI companies today? You know, the idea that as long as you're growing, as long as you're acquiring users, the profits, they'll come eventually. It's a really powerful story, and it's one we need to be very, very careful about.
Okay, so let's start by digging into the evidence. Let's treat these past tech bubbles like cold cases. By understanding how they formed, and more importantly, why they burst, we can start to see if the same patterns, the same fingerprints, are showing up all over AI today.
And look, this isn't some new phenomenon. From electricity in the 1880s to radio in the 20s, and of course the internet in the 90s, pretty much every game-changing technology has gone through a similar hype cycle. The details change, sure, but the basic story stays the same. A period of just wild excitement and investment, followed almost inevitably by a brutal reality check. The real question is, where are we in that cycle with AI right now?
Let's go back to that eToys example, because the numbers are just staggering. A company with only $30 million in sales was valued at over $7 billion. That is a classic textbook sign of a bubble, when a company's price is being driven not by its actual performance, not by its profits, but by a story about the future. It's not about fundamentals anymore. It's pure hype.
And this is what happens when that hype finally runs out of steam. It's not a slow leak, it's a catastrophic implosion. I mean, can you imagine watching 80% of your investment just evaporate in 9 months? That is the brutal reality of a market correction. It is fast, it is merciless, and it leaves a whole lot of financial wreckage behind.
So why does this keep happening? Over and over again? Well, according to the book Bubbles and Crashes, it's not just some random market madness. There's actually a recipe for creating a tech bubble. A formula, really. And it has 3 key ingredients.
Here it is, the formula. First, you need a revolutionary new technology that's so new, nobody, not even the experts, really knows how it's all going to play out. That's your uncertainty. Second, you need a powerful, simple story that cuts right through all that confusion and promises to change the world. That's your narrative. And third, you need a flood of new investors, people who are eager to get in on the action, but, and this is key, have never lived through a real market crash before. They're the fuel for the fire.
Now let's be really clear about what we mean by novice. This isn't about being smart or dumb, has nothing to do with intelligence. A novice investor, according to this research, could be anyone, a PhD, a plumber, you name it, who has put money into a roaring bull market but has never felt that stomach drop feeling of a real sustained crash. For them, the market has only ever gone up.
And back in the dot-com era, this kind of an experience was, it was everywhere. You had venture capital firms with practically no tech experience making almost half of all the investments. You had 50,000 new dot-coms being started by people who had never even run a business before. It was the absolute perfect storm of novice investors at every single level, and it was the rocket fuel that sent that bubble into the stratosphere.
Okay, so we have our 3-part formula for a tech bubble. Now, let's do it. Let's put on our analyst hats for a second and apply this framework to the AI boom. Are we seeing the same ingredients cooking in the pot today?
Let's start with the narratives. The dot-com bubble was fueled by these really simple, powerful slogans like "Get big, fast." The message was basically, don't worry about profits, just get as many users as you can. Now, listen to the stories we're hearing about AI. Achieve AGI at all costs, which is this race to create a human-level intelligence. Or just the grand statement, AI will change humanity. These are huge, almost mythical narratives, and they are very, very light on the details of how these companies are actually going to make any money. Sound familiar? Then you've got the uncertainty. Just like with the early days of the internet, we really don't know who the big winners in AI are going to be.
We don't know which business models are going to work. Are we going to have AI subscriptions like Netflix? Will companies license their models? Who knows? And then you have these massive questions about regulation that are still completely up in the air. All of this uncertainty, it creates a vacuum. And those powerful narratives we just talked about, they rush right in to fill it.
And finally, we get to that third ingredient, the novice investors. This statistic it blows my mind. Back in the 1850s, it would have taken the average worker 5 months of labor to afford a single share of stock. Today, you can do it in less than 5 minutes on your phone. The barriers to entry for inexperienced investors have been completely obliterated, which means there's this enormous pool of people ready and waiting to jump into the market when the next big thing comes along. So when you have all three of those ingredients in place, you get a bubble. But here's the thing about bubbles. They are, by their very nature, unstable. They're fragile. So what's the trigger? What's the pin that finally causes the whole thing to come crashing down?
Yeah, what is it? What's the catalyst that flips the market switch from euphoria to pure panic? Is it one single event? Is it a slow, dawning realization? Well, history shows us it can be a lot of different things, but when it happens, it tends to happen very, very fast.
You know, it could be the moment the market finally realizes that a lot of these AI companies are just burning through cash with no real plan to ever make a profit. Or it could be a major government crackdown over safety concerns. Or hey, it could be something as simple as the technology just not living up to the insane hype. Imagine if the next generation of AI models is a huge disappointment. That alone could be enough to shatter the narrative and send investors sprinting for the exits.
Now this might be the single most important takeaway from this whole explainer. For investors, a crash feels like the end of the world, but it is not the end of the technology. The dot-com bust didn't kill the internet, did it? No. A crash acts more like a forest fire. It's destructive, yes, but it burns away all the dead wood, all the unsustainable ideas, leaving the ground clear for stronger things to grow.
So, what's left after the fire? When all the smoke clears and the hype finally dies down, what's actually left standing? This is where the story takes a really surprising and, frankly, optimistic turn.
This quote from Bubbles and Crashes gets at a fascinating paradox. The authors argue that even though bubbles are destructive in the short term, they can actually be a good thing for society in the long run. Why? Because all that irrational exuberance, all that hype, it leads to a flood of investment in these ambitious, crazy moonshot projects that would never get funded in normal, rational times. Yeah, most of them fail. But the few that succeed, they can genuinely change the world.
Take the aviation industry, for example. In the early days, there was this huge bubble fueled by government contracts to deliver airmail. A ton of money poured in, new planes were developed at a rapid pace, and a lot of companies went bankrupt. But when that bubble burst and the government money dried up, the industry itself was mature enough to survive and eventually thrive on its own. The bubble, in a way, acted like a temporary rocket booster, providing that initial, massive thrust to get a brand new technology off the ground.
So in the end, maybe the question we should be asking isn't if the AI bubble is going to burst, but what will be left when it does. When all the froth and the hype are washed away, which companies, which ideas, and which technologies will be the ones left standing to actually build the future? That's the real billion-dollar question.